You know, you often hear people say everything tastes better with bacon, and you know what? They're absolutely right. Apart from maybe Parmesan, I think bacon has more of that legendary umami flavor than any other ingredient on the planet. I've visited dozens of countries and I've eaten some astonishing meals, but when people ask me what's the best thing you've ever eaten, I'm often very hard pressed to say anything other than a terrific bacon sandwich and a strong cup of British tea, always British tea. It's even better though if you can make it with bacon that you've created at home. And I'm going to show you just how easy that is. Welcome to Mission Bacon. If you look in cookery books or online, you'll see there are dozens of different recipes for making bacon, and all of them work really well. I have to say though that my inspiration for the recipe I'm doing today comes from Michael Ruhlman's amazing book, Charcuterie. If you don't have a copy of it, I really recommend you going out and finding one. One of the beautiful things I think about making bacon is, however good the store-bought versions you buy are, you never know quite what's gone into them. And when you make it at home, you have absolute control over everything that goes into the final product. And the end product is so much better for it. Of course, when you start with any meat product, whether you're making a steak, whether you're making a hamburger, whether you're roasting a chicken, just make sure that the meat you have is a really fantastic product, because without that, the end result is never going to be great. Now, if you're making bacon, you can use pork loin. I actually really love to use belly pork. And the reason why, you can see I've got this beautiful piece of meat here from a local farmer's market, is the fat. Meat is just dead protein without fat. The first thing you want to do when you've got your piece of belly pork is just to trim it down so you've got nice straight lines. That makes it much easier to slice in the end. And although it looks like you're trimming off quite a lot, actually you'll find at the end that you've still got plenty of bacon to go around for everybody. This is quite tough. I've left the skin on, and I do prefer to leave the rind on my bacon. Some people don't like that, you know, that's entirely your choice, but I think it gives you, again, a better end result. Just trim off all four sides, really get nice straight lines. Not only will that fit into our container, but it will give you good lines, and it's almost even beginning to look like proto-bacon now before you've even done anything to it. So we're just going to put our meat to one side. Always make sure, give the knife a good wash, and to wash the boards anytime you're using raw meat. So next we're going to go on to our cure, and curing always sounds like one of these kind of mystical processes, but it's very straightforward. Curing really only needs just very few ingredients, and the main one, of course, is salt. Now, you actually don't need that much salt to cure a piece of belly pork like this. I've got that as about 3 to 4 pounds worth of belly pork, and I've got a 1/4 cup of kosher salt here, which has got nice big flakes and is perfect for curing. The next one's a really interesting ingredient. This is called pink salt. You might also see it being sold like this as preserving salt, or even as curing salt, and this is rather an expensive jar from a gourmet store. But don't worry about the expense, because this amount will last you for a long time. You use very little of it. So you've got just a teaspoon of pink salt, and they actually colour it pink because it contains nitrates, nitrites, and because it's poisonous, so they don't want you to mistake it for table salt. The next ingredient is sugar, and you really need to give your bacon a little sweet hint at the end of it. I'm using just all brown sugar here. I've got about a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. The next thing is garlic. I love garlic in my bacon. I like to just smash mine with a knife, just really to get those oils flowing from it, which I find do go into the bacon and really give it a good flavour. Next, we've got bay leaf. I love bay leaves, fantastic flavour. And finally, in this instance, spices. Now, you can do bacon in lots of different flavours. Here I'm going very simple. We've got juniper berries, we've got coriander seed, got a little bit of clove, not too much. Clove's such a strong flavour, so just 3 or 4 cloves. And then I've got black peppercorns, which are perfect just to give some flavour. Now, you want to really grind these up just a tiny bit, just again to get all those essential oils from them to be released. So just put them in a mortar and pestle. Don't overdo it, but just give them a bit of a press like this. You can see I'm just breaking them up slightly so I can use them in my rub. And finally, the herbs. I'm just using fresh thyme. It's actually beautiful smell. You could use rosemary as well, but just a few leaves. And again, don't worry about pulling them off the stalks, because you're going to rinse everything off at the end. So that's going to give you some really beautiful flavour in the finished result. So now we need to start massaging all of these flavors into the meat, into the pork belly, which is really what's going to transform it into bacon. So just put that to one side. As you can see, I've got a kitchen towel on my counter here, and I always do that. It's a great tip. Either if you've got your chopping boards or you've got a bowl, it just stops them moving around. So we're just going to add in the salt. Add in your pink salt, your sugar, the garlic. Going to add in those spices. So the next thing up is the bay leaves. You really only want to use a couple of good sized leaves. Just crumble them in your hands, tear them, so they really get into the mixture. And then finally, those beautiful strands of fresh thyme. Pull a few of the leaves off, mix this all together with your hands, really get it together. And then we want to get our piece of belly. And the key here is that you really want to massage this very, very well into the meat. Make sure that that salt covers every surface, and that's really important for the cure. And what you'll find is as you make the bacon, it goes from being this rather soft and squishy piece of beautiful pork belly to being very firm as the liquid all comes out. The other thing is, of course, as the cure works, it draws all the liquid out of the bacon, but that allows other flavors to go in. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm really massaging it well into the meat. Make sure that the whole surface is covered. So once you've got to the point where you've spent a couple of minutes massaging all that beautiful cure and seasoning into your belly pork, now you're ready to put it in the container ready for the fridge. Take the bacon, put it straight into the plastic container, and then you want to put a little bit of this cure in with it. Make sure that every aspect of it is covered. Make sure that it's properly sealed so that none of the liquid spills out, because this is going to produce a lot of liquid as the salt cure works. As it produces the liquid, you really want to make sure that that liquid covers the whole surface area of the bacon. So just once a day, at the same time every day, just come and do that. And you'll find that the liquid obviously goes down to the bottom and just soaks that part of the bacon for the day. And then you just want to turn it over the next day. And once you've got it to this stage, it's ready for the fridge. First stage completed. So it's been 7 days, 7 long days waiting for bacon, which is a bit like waiting for Godot. So you can see I'm a little bit more haggard, but we're almost there. So the bacon stage is almost done. So now you can see I've taken this beautiful piece of what was pork belly out of the container and rinsed away most of the liquid. And just so you can have a look now it's quite firm, and that's exactly how you want it to be. That's really all the liquid has come out and all the flavors have gone into that. Now we obviously don't want to cook it at this stage just like that, so we're going to take it over to the sink and just rinse it off. You really want to get rid of as much of this as possible. So we're just going to dry it on some kitchen towel. Really get it dry. Now some people actually do put the bacon into the fridge at this point overnight, and that helps dry it out, and it also helps form a slightly tacky surface that some people like when they cook their final bacon. But you really don't need to do that stage, you just need to get it nice and dry. And now the bacon is ready to be cooked. And really what you're looking to do with the cooking process is to kill any of the bacteria that might be inside it. There are really 2 ways of doing this. If you're really lucky and you've got a great outdoor space and you've got a smoker, then pop this in your smoker with your favorite type of wood. Apple wood, cherry wood is wonderful with bacon. Some oak just to give it some nice nutty flavors. And that's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to kill off the bacteria, but also you're going to add an extra layer of flavor. If, like me, you've got a tiny little apartment and you really don't have the space for a smoker, you can do this just as well in the oven. The only thing you're not going to add is really get that smoky flavor. Put it on a rack like this. And this is something that you're really going to need to invest in, and actually you should have in your kitchen anyway whenever you're cooking meat, is a meat thermometer, just to make sure that the internal temperature of the pork gets to exactly where you need it to be. Now the government recommendation is 150 degrees, and so what we're going to do is I've turned the oven on and preheated it to 200 degrees. I'm going to put this meat thermometer into the thickest part of the bacon, and we're just going to put it in the oven and cook it for 90 minutes or until this internal temperature comes up to 150 degrees, and then it'll be ready to eat. So after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, take out the bacon and then just put it out to cool. Now, you should let it cool thoroughly, sometimes put it in the fridge. That'll just help it firm up. It makes it much easier for slicing. I'm not going to wait that long. So I've taken out my beautiful piece of pork belly bacon here. I've already cut off one big thick slice just to give it a nice sort of even edge there. You can use either a good kitchen knife, good sharp chef's knife, or I often like to use just a serrated. This is a bread knife in fact, but it's very sharp, serrated, works very well. I find just flipping the belly over and just gently cutting a slice. So I actually like quite thick slices. And look at that, it's just beautiful, beautiful bacon. With the other big chunks that are left, this is quite a fatty piece. I'm just going to trim some of the fat off that with my paring knife. And then I like to cut these up into reasonable sized chunks and just keep these, again, in freezer bags in chunks like this. And that's great if you're making a chili, again, if you're making a soup or a stew and you just want to fry those off as little nuggets and using the fat as well to cook everything else in. So I've got a couple of beautiful slices of homemade bacon here. I've got a pan hot and ready and waiting, and as far as I'm concerned, that's mission bacon completed.